has a plan for Tucson. I believe that God has a plan for this great nation. And I believe that we're in the middle of living through history. There's many of you in the audience who I know have been through this before. Many individuals who are my age. This is our first time going through it, and I hope that we learn from these past mistakes. But I am so encouraged by the crowd here tonight that is here to hear the truth about such a crucial issue that the media has simply been ignoring. And you guys here tonight are a testament that the media is not going to ignore this Fast and Furious scandal any longer.
Sorry.
All right, two things before I hand the mic over. I'm sure she'll get a lot of praise this evening, but I've been able to watch her grow into her role as a, I don't know, political gadfly journalist. But one individual who's been on the forefront of this from the get-go, she's from here, she went to the University of Arizona. I was incredibly proud and honored to have her on my show and to see her career take off. She's been on the forefront of this scandal from the very beginning. She's here tonight from Washington, D.C., from townhall.com, covering the event. Please, a round of applause for Katie Pavlich. Trent, and that is back to that article talking about the relevancy of the Tucson Tea Party locally. And I had Trent on the show. I had Prather on the show last week talking about this event, and I had one of the individuals tonight who was one of the whistleblowers with us on the show this morning. And I told Trent off the air that that article was laughable. The Tucson Tea Party has made so many strides and changed so much in this community, and has been such a driving force in the change that we're still experiencing. We just went through an amazing tea party back in April, and I told Trent, you know, it's quality over quantity, and tonight's event is the quality. People want to know what is going on. They want the truth exposed, they want clarity, they want accountability, and they want people to accept responsibility for this horrible, horrible scandal. And the Tucson Tea Party, Trent and Jennifer and everybody involved deserve a huge round of applause for putting this together tonight. Trent, who's been a driving force, and personally, Trent, I want to say thank you for what you guys have done for this community and for giving up your valuable time, your personal time, and your family time, and devoted it to this amazing cause. Everybody, please, Trent Humphreys.
Before we go further, I'd like to thank the volunteers that make this possible. I mean, if you guys don't show up and our volunteers don't help out, none of this is possible, so thank you so much. And especially, a couple people, I think my wife, who's, my son has a Little League game, I'm supposed to be coaching tonight, but she's taking over the coaching duties, and they'll probably do better with her coaching them. She's the driving force behind this. Every permit that gets filled out, everything that happens, every bit of accounting, Jennifer takes care of that, and it's tremendous. And you don't see that, but she does it. Another person I'd like to thank is Jeff Prather. Jeff Prather came to me and said, well, what are we going to do about this Fast and Furious issue? I said, Jeff, what can we do? You know, we're just small time. And he said, well, it's happening big. He said, well, I was talking about a whistleblower that said this. Jeff, get me the whistleblower. Get him here. We will get that story out. And Jeff did it. And we contacted Congressman Gosar and said, would you like to come talk about Fast and Furious? And he said yes. And we asked Sheriff Paul, and Sheriff Paul did the same thing. You know, we have people here that are willing to put things on the line to make sure this gets out, and to make sure that you find those people and you thank them, because without them, we don't do anything. Without help from you guys, without help from everything we do, this doesn't go anywhere. This is your tea party. This isn't Trent Jennifer's tea party. This is your tea party. We just help. So thank you. And I would also like to thank all our speakers who are here, and they're going to do a wonderful job. And I'm going to go ahead and start into the introductions. They're going to each speaker about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and then after we're through with the introduction, after we're through speaking, we're going to have a panel where you'll be able to ask them questions, which I think is vitally important. Now, please, not everybody's going to be able to ask a question, obviously. So I would ask that you be respectful, that we do so in an orderly manner, and that we be quick about it. I know people like to ask questions that last a long time. I do it. We don't have time for that. Just as quick as you can, and we'll get some questions answered, and they'll know what's going on. So go ahead, let me start. Congressman Paul A. Gosar is serving his first term as Congress as a representative from Arizona's 1st Congressional District in Flagstaff, Arizona. He is current member of the House Committee of Oversight and Government Reform investigating this Fast and Furious scandal. We are honored to have him at this event this evening. Congressman Gosar.
Wow. Arizona was known for its 5 C's. Everybody know what the 5 C's are? Cattle, citrus, climate, cotton, and? You got it. But you know what? We're known for our 6th C. And you know what that is? Corruption! No, it's citizens. Citizens like you. And I'm so glad to be in Arizona. Now, I'm Dr. Paul Gosar. Before I went to Congress, I was a dentist. And I will get to the end of this, even if it requires me to pull teeth. And drill baby drill has a whole different meaning when it comes from me. I also want to take one time out here and say, with John, reiterate something. The Tea Party has been a focal point of name calling. I want to leave you with something. Remember when your mom told you sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me? Let's live it, because this country's worth it all. So thanks for coming out today. I'm sorry I've got to walk around because my mom always told me that I had St. Vitus dance. So if I can burn a trail here, maybe Sheriff Paul will fall into it. But no, tonight we're gathered here to start talking about something terribly wrong with our federal government. Something terribly wrong that you and the citizens of this country, as well as the citizens from Mexico, were used as collateral damage. Yes. The only reason we're going to find how these guns got locked and where they're going to come up is at crime scenes. And that's a shame. Never in the history of our Justice Department have we allowed a gun to walk without having surveillance and tracking mechanisms on it. And like I said, the only way you're going to find the rest of these guns is at the end of a crime scene. That is intolerable. Whoever dreamed this up obviously didn't understand the Constitution, that a government's here to protect, not to put them in harm's way. So let's talk about what transpired here. Government oversight is a committee, and I am the only representative from Arizona that sits on that committee. In fact, our chairman, Chairman Isa from California was just in this weekend actually, in the state talking. And so what basically we have to do is that we look at all the rules and things that come up as a first source. Other committees have jurisdiction as well. And you'll see that shortly, because Fast and Furious is now going to go to the Judiciary Committee along with us. Because we deserve the answers. We need to have the transparencies that we were promised. We want to make sure that all the documentation on who knew, who okayed, comes forward. And make it perfectly clear that if Main Street America had done this, we'd already be in jail. that criminal charges follow those who allow this to occur. So let's start, we're going to walk through how this came about. There was an operation started in 2005 called Operation Gun Runner. It started in Laredo, Texas. And it soon progressed under the Bush administration to move to the southwest border. And it had several opinions that they were trying to do. Number one was to increase the surveillance of gun tracing into Mexico. They were looking for international cooperation from our neighbors. We were trying to get domestic support and help to make sure that we weren't getting it coming back over. And last but not least is that we wanted to increase our intelligence. And the reason I start with those four things is because every bit of those four objectives were violated when Attorney General Eric Holder in 2009 in Mexico City outlines tactical changes to Operation Gun Runner that we now know turns into Fast and Furious. And here's where we came about. We actually allowed straw buyers to take guns and give them to criminals, people that could not and should not have weapons. And this wasn't just little bits. This is almost 2,000 guns, folks. And like I reiterated before, never have we allowed this to occur without surveillance and tracking mechanisms. So we have no idea where they're at. We actually had gun sales people say they didn't want to sell the guns. Something looked suspicious. They called ATF. ATF said, sell the guns. Folks, I can't make this stuff up. This is how bad this is. We actually had gun owners calling special agents and saying, something is wrong here. We need to be following this weapon. When a special agent came about trying to track them, they were told to stand down. Now, what a straw purchaser is a person who buys a gun for somebody else who can't have it. It's an illegal act. And I hope you can go back into the government oversight archives, and you're going to hear and understand some of the cover-up that goes with this. Because we had several members from the Department of Justice, ATF specifically, would not acknowledge that they walked guns. We argued it over and over again. We had 3 attorneys on that hearing. One happens to be a friend of mine from South Carolina, Mr. Trey Gallup, who sat as an ATF special prosecutor for 6 years and was with the ATF for 10. So you'd think he ought to know the rules. And over again, we walked through this daily charade of what gun walking was. Never admitting it. And I followed up by asking to try to get it on the record that the gun owners, the gun salespeople, did everything right. Did everything right. And they started hemming and hawing. And that's where I was known as saying, well, it looks like we have the Mo, Curly, and Larry show. That what I'm dealing with is Mo and Curly. I got to look for Larry because Larry's the only one who's got the answers. Well, talk about the cover-up. The 3 Stooges are now back in Washington, D.C. And what we've seen is our federal attorney, Mr. Burke, resign. You've seen us go through the round and round bout of trying to find out the information. We've seen numerous information being redacted, which will get something, but it's so blacked out we can't make heads or tails about it. We also have an inspector general that's contaminated and even made it worse. And we're asking for somebody different because she should be overseeing this process. They allowed tapes that we had in our possession to go to another witness that tainted that witness on her testimony, on his testimony. That's inappropriate. Absolutely inappropriate. So we've been starting to get some information. And once again, 2 committees will start to overhear this. part that's interesting is that when the Mexican folks from the ATF on the other side started seeing this, they started asking, what's going on? They'd even put serial numbers into our database and would get a response. And they were told over and over by higher-ups, it's coming out of the Phoenix sector. Everything's fine, they have it under control. Numerous times. The first cache of these weapons showed up in 2009 down in Mexico. There are numerous incidents where they've been finding these. These aren't small weapons, folks. These are AK-47s and 50 calibers. In fact, two of the last findings were with two helicopters. For those that understand ballistics, a 50 caliber will take down a helicopter. That's exactly what it proceeded to do. So we have done this, and we didn't even tell our friends from Mexico. Over 40,000 people have lost their lives in Mexico, and we made this worse. And we're expecting the Mexican government to trust us? Remember the 4 principles that I was telling you about? They violated all 4. In fact, Special Agent Canino sat there in my testimony, in our hearing. He was fuming. You know, as a healthcare provider, you watch body language, you watch how somebody sweats, you see how somebody cants, how they talk, how they, they perspire, how they breathe. Oh, he was all of the above. Because he was so annoyed at his superiors and their testimony. In fact, he said, the booklet that we took an oath to for ATF and for the Department of Justice, what you did, what I held my life to, the protection of this country, you shredded. There wasn't one part you used of it. Who's watched the show, A Few Good Men? Guess what, folks? We're living it. Are we ever going to find these guns? All of them? Maybe not. But I can guarantee you that what we're going to do is we're going to find them at the crime scenes. And because of that, because that we were used in that fashion, as collateral damage, and yes, one of the witnesses even said, if he had the chance to do it all over again, he'd do it exactly the same way. Is that a government for the people, by the people? No, it isn't. That's a government directing at the people. And it's funny that all of a sudden we see more paperwork coming for our gun dealers. So you start drawing the dots. It seems this administration keeps shuffling the deck every time we want to scrutinize or kind of cloud the waters. But I want to ask you a question, because I want you to do your homework. Because no one else in D.C. is, unless this little gal right down here, Katie from Town Halls, and NRA. Yeah. Those people have really brought this to the table. So give her a round of applause. I want to remind you, we had a couple guys break into a hotel, and it took down an administration. No one died. We've got people that have died. Over 150 guaranteed on the other side of the border. And Special Agent Terry and Zapata from this side. When's the media going to take up this charge? When are we going to hold bureaucrats and agencies to task? That's because we have to. That's because it has to come from us. It has to come from Arizona. It has to come from Congress. And we must demand it. So folks, stay tuned. Stay involved. Ask the hard questions and continue to ask those questions. Because the next guy speaking, he's having to deal with this from a law enforcement on the ground. This isn't what government should be about. That's not why I ran. I ran for transparency. I wanted to see a government that was for the people and by the people and with the people. And we constantly got that mixed up. We've really got that mixed up. Is this going to be easy? Absolutely not. When you start looking at what we're having to detail, and it takes it just a little frame away from Fast and Furious, but talk about Solyndra. I mean, it's over and over and over again. And so, you know, thank God for the Tea Party. I want to leave you with one comment. We're going to go through some rough times. Some real rough times before this next election. Stay together, stay focused. Remember what Ronald Reagan said. Somebody I agree with 70% of the part of the time is not an enemy, they're a friend. We need all the friends that we can in this country. We had 3 special elections. The first special election in upstate New York wasn't about Metascare. It was about dividing the vote. Flat out, it was dividing the vote. We can't divide the vote with this president. We need to stay focused. We need to be rational. We can't respond to the name calling, because that's exactly what they want us to do. And ask for the information. Demand the information. And hold people to the fire. Folks, thanks for coming out tonight. Look forward to your questions and look forward to the next session. Thank you.
Our next guest is kind of shy, so you're going to have to coax him on out. Sheriff Paul Bevel was America's 2011 Sheriff of the Year. And for those in Pekin County, this is what a sheriff looks like. He probably leads a department of 700 full-time employees. Pinal County is the #1 pass-through county in all of America for drug and human smuggling. Basically the ground zero in the fallout over America's unsecured southern border. He's a decorated lawman, Iraq War veteran, and true corruption fighter. And he needs his own television show. He is a fervent and powerful advocate investigating and releasing the truth concerning the Fast and Furious government gun running scandal.
With all that, most importantly, I'm proud to be an American. I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of President Obama apologizing for our country. And not doing his job. We in Arizona are the front line, and we understand the illegal immigration issue is one of several components of what is more complex than we are portrayed in the national media, than we are portrayed by the leaders of our own country. We have asked for help. Why? Not just because of the illegal immigration. 210,000 illegals were apprehended right here in the Tucson sector last year. That's a lot of people. Now, the Border Patrol admits, this is a Sheriff Paul saying these numbers, the Border Patrol says that that's a reflection of 1 out of every possible 3. Now, if the majority of basic illegals can make it into America undetected, what does this tell us about those with military training or those who could be a part of a terrorist cell to come in? They're more likely to come in undetected through this likely avenue of approach. Now, I say that, and then the mayors of Douglas and Nogales and San Luis continue to attack me and say that I'm a fearmonger. Well, I'm telling the truth. I'm telling
what the reality is on the ground, while we have the leaders of our country who have broken and betrayed our trust, telling the American people, lulling us into this false sense of security, that the border is more secure than ever. Now, clearly, if 212,000 basic illegals were apprehended and double that number made it through undetected, that's not a measure of success on anybody's scorecard, is it? No. Absolutely not. And this mantra to convince the American people, all in an effort to get to their agenda, which is some path to citizenship or amnesty. And that's not going to happen in America. And the reason why... And none of us here are against immigration. We're against illegal immigration. Here and saying, to start out, the first words out of my mouth is I'm proud to be an American, as opposed to our president to blame America first, to apologize for America. That this scandal that we're talking about tonight, Fast and Furious, will literally dwarf anything in our lives that we've seen. When all this information comes out and we have to drag literally our own Attorney General, Eric Holder, and all these people, and President Obama and Janet Napolitano into the light of day to have them tell the truth about what happened. And this is where, and I think, because I said this one time, and somebody says, you're an isolationist. I said, I talked about Iraq, I talked about Afghanistan, and I said, look, we've been there 8 years in Iraq. I was proud to serve our country in Iraq in a deployment as an Army officer. And we've been in Afghanistan for 10 years, a decade now. We spent $1 trillion with a T in Iraq, and we're still not out of there. And this president led us to believe, remember when he was running, that's why we won their nomination. And he's starting his 4th year soon, we're still not out of there. So where's the truth about him? And then he starts bombing Libya. Okay? And what was the reason? Do you remember why he said we were bombing Libya? That's exactly what he said. It was a humanitarian reason. People could be killed over there by their own government. Well, if that was the threshold to go to war, how many wars would we be in today? We'd be in over probably 30 wars. And the reason why I'm framing this, and I'm not saying because that person who said that I was an isolationist, I said, look, I proudly served our country. I've always supported our military. We have used in our republic our military as a platform to launch our aggressive foreign policy for the last 100+ years. And I'm proud of that as a country. But I'm saying if we can do those things, we need to reprioritize and take care of our own southern border and stand up and protect America. How many people have been killed now in Mexico because of the cartels warring with the government? How many people? Thousands. 43,000. Usually there's somebody says 10,000, 20,000. It's like the price is right. You know, it's 43,000 plus people have been killed in Mexico and has literally destabilized Mexico. And that's a problem for us. This is our neighbor. This isn't Libya. This is our neighbor we share 2,000 miles of border with. And I say this for all of us because we have to be educated on this in order to defeat other people in argument. And because this is our government, we're a republic. And we're going to tell our government that this has to be a priority because the cartels, not the Mexican people, not the Mexican government, not the leaders of Mexico are the enemy. The cartels are the enemy of Mexico and the enemy of the United States. And that violence, and this is what's happening, because I frame this in the fact that who's Arizona's #1 trading partner? Mexico is. We have an inherent interest with our economy, with the success, the survival of Mexico. And what's going on in Mexico, and to show you the dishonest approach of our president, when he says we're going to bomb Libya because of humanitarian reasons. Mr. President, look south and see what's going on in Mexico. This is our neighbor. Where's the sense of injustice and the outrage for our neighbor? And we have the illegal immigration problem is the reason why we have to secure the border. We have the cartels who have destabilized Mexico, who think they own the place, coming up and through Pinal County with lookout posts and high terrain features in my county. We had a shooting, a suspected cartel member shoots at a police officer in DPS as part of our task force. And this is going on, cartel members and bandits shooting and killing each other, people getting kidnapped, breaking into homes and people in my county, and everything's more secure than ever before. And then so those are two reasons: the illegal immigration, the cartels, and bringing their violence here to America, and then Mexico. The fact that it's been destabilized to such a degree creates a national security threat far graver than I think anything we continue to face in Iraq and Afghanistan. And we have to think about that this is our own border. And where are people likely to use an avenue of approach is Mexico. And then that fourth reason is our interest in the economic interest. That's very clear, especially now when we're in the position that we're in. All of those reasons, independent of each other, I believe trumps the reasons that we continue to be there in the Middle East. And this is where I say, we got to put America first. My dad... Who here has served in our nation's military? If you'd raise your hand. Thank you for your service. My father served as a sergeant in the Korean War. When we start that war, 1950, we were engaged over there. Right now, tonight as we're here talking, there's 28,600 service members in Korea defending, protecting, securing their border. Why don't we put our country first and have 6,000 armed soldiers on our border securing and protecting our border? So that's the situation. While we've asked for help, pleaded for help to our federal government, where that's their core function in the government, is to protect and defend America. Instead of helping us, they fought us. They've taken us to court. They put up those ridiculous billboard signs in my county, in L County, that say danger, warning, travel not recommended, drug and human smuggling, armed gunmen. On American soil. In Pinal County, in law enforcement, we call that a clue. That it's not safe there, right? Yeah. And this is what we're getting. And then the president has the audacity, he talks about audacity, he has the audacity to say these people. And I'm glad to see so many patriots here tonight. Because I look in your faces, because he had these people. And I can now see these people, Americans, who want the border security, who want us to defend America. And instead of being a leader and uniting America and bringing us together on the most divisive issues, he banks hard right. And he goes to this issue on immigration. Not the first 2 years, because if he was sincere about this, he would have had immigration reform when his popularity was soaring, when they controlled supermajorities in the House and the Senate. And yet he waits to the eve of his re-election. And he does this. Folks, that is clear as day to all of us who are active, that he's using this to divide America. And we're not going to let him do this to our country anymore. To bring us here tonight, that all the while, that our own president, Barack Obama and Eric Holder, have been making the case that this violence in Mexico, 42,000 people that have been killed, and 90%, have you seen President Obama say on TV, 90% of all the guns that go to Mexico come from the United States. which is false on its face, but that's where he was saying. Why is he saying that? To support the argument to restrict our gun rights here in America. That's what he was doing. All the while, and then as he's making this case and saying the violence, he invites President Calderon to the seat of power, seat of our government, and he high-fives him with all these Democrats giving them a cheering, standing ovation as they attack Arizona and the rule of law in an effort to further restrict assault rifles and to further restrict gun ownership here in America. Blaming America first. And then, lo and behold, we now find out it's our own government that has been facilitating and with the straw purchases of weapons being placed into the hands of the most violent criminals in North America, Mexican drug cartels. This is outrageous. If we thought Watergate was bad, breaking in and taking documents and trying to find out, and then people getting caught in lies, which we don't tolerate by those in elected office because they were trapped. So, folks, people are being killed with these guns that our own government gave and facilitated into the hands of the drug cartels. This is going to eclipse anything that we've seen. And the fact is that now, what are they saying, 11 crimes? And now they try to pull it back and say, no, only 2 crimes in the United States. Well, regardless what it is, this is just the beginning. That crimes in our country are being committed with these very weapons. That Agent Brian Terry, who I always say to all our Border Patrol, they're heroes. Agent Brian Terry is a hero. Deserve to be treated better. That our law, he was a cop, he is a Marine, and on American soil, he was murdered with guns that our own government gave foreign-born thugs, and they murdered him. This is outrageous, and it was like waterboarding the government to get this information from them. And now they're saying on the low end in Mexico, 180 plus people, who knows what the full body count is, have been killed in Mexico. And countless crime scenes in Mexico where these guns have turned up. So, lo and behold, Mr. President, while you were making the case